of my chest, train my mind so I forget. Sink your teeth into my bones, dig me out, then fill.
Hello YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. So for today's video, we are back with what I read this month, and this is for May. So just like we did last time, this is going to be spliced up into each of the different weeks that I finished a book. So again, if I have different outfits on, if it seems kind of choppy, that's why. So anyway, let's just go ahead and get started. So this first one's going to be a little bit different than how we're going to do the others, because while I read a sequel to a book series, if I go right ahead and tell you about this one, it gives away something that happened in the first book. So I'm actually going to talk about the first book first. That way, if it piques your interest, you can just skip over this part of the video and go pick up this book series. So the first book of the series is called Girls with Sharp Sticks. And this is another book that I read quite a few years ago, because if you didn't see my last video, I talked about how I, for some reason, like to draw a series out, but that honestly might end with this one because I really want to know what happens. But anyway, that's beside the point. So when I read this, it was back in like 2020, 2021, so about like 3 years ago. Whoops. So I didn't really, I kind of remembered what happened, but I had to familiarize myself a little bit more. But I loved this book. Like seriously, I wish that Netflix or someone would pick this up and do a movie or a TV show or something, because it would be amazing as one. Like, it's just, it's so good. But anyway, this is what the first one is about. It says, the girls of Innovations Academy are beautiful and well behaved. It says so on their report card. Under the watchful gaze of their guardian, they receive a well-rounded education that promises to make them better. Obedient girls, free from arrogance or defiance, free from troublesome opinions or individual interests. But the girls' carefully controlled existence may not be quite what it appears. As Mina and her friends uncover the dark secrets of what's actually happening there and who they really are, the girls of Innovations Academy will learn to fight back. So if this sounds like something that sparks your interest, I would definitely pause the video here and move on to where you see me in a different outfit, because I'm going to be giving some spoilers. So I'll give you a minute to do that. Okay, are you gone? Okay, so what happens? The girls actually turn out to be AI. But they're like half robot, half human, and that, you know, they have mechanical brains, but they actually have human organs. Like, it's really weird. So this book picks up immediately from where the first book ended. And this one is about, it's been weeks since Mina and the other girls of Innovations Academy escaped their elite boarding school. Although traumatized by the violence and experimentations that occurred there, Mina quickly discovers that the outside world can be just as unwelcoming and cruel. Having no one else to turn to, the girls only have each other, and the revenge-fueled desire to shut down the corporation that imprisoned them. The girls enroll in Ridgeview Prep, a private school with suspect connections to Innovations, to identify the son of an investor and take down the corporation from the inside. But with pressure from Leandra, who revealed herself to be a double agent, and Winston Weeks, an Academy investor gone rogue, Mina wonders if she and her friends are simply trading one form of control for another. Not to mention the woman who is quite literally invading Mina's thoughts, a woman with extreme ideas that both frighten and intrigue Mina. And as the girls fight for freedom from their past, and freedom for the girls still Innovations, they must also face new questions about their existence and what it means to be girls with razor hearts, which is the title of the book. But yeah, this book is so good. From what I can remember from the first one, I think this one might be a little bit better, but it instantly drew me in. I just wanted to keep reading it and reading it and reading it. I could not put it down. And what they talked about at Ridgeview Prep, not in exactly the same ways that they have issues there, but I kind of related to that in a way because I went to a private school and I was bullied and I was prejudiced against because I was a scholarship kid. I talk about that in my bullying story. I'll have that in the cards just so I won't make this video longer than it needs to be. But I related to the things that happened in the book in a way, and it made me so angry. But this is definitely a good read. Highly, 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 highly recommend that you read this series. It is so good. And honestly, like, it's a young adult book, but it doesn't really read the same as a young adult book. Like, I think it might be in the intermediate, if that makes sense. But I can't talk highly enough about this book. Like, the characters are so different, but you know, I love them all, you know, except for the bad guys, but I mean, they're bad guys. So, but I don't know what to say about this book without giving anything away, but it definitely left on a cliffhanger to where I'm like, I may need to break my rule and go ahead and read the third book to find out what happens. And I also can't wait to read this series. So I definitely think that I will pick one of those up soon. But I give Girls with Razor Hearts definitely 5 books out of 5. All right, so the next book that we are going to talk about is A Little Something Different. And like the title says, this book is a little different. I can tell you right away that this is not going to be for everybody, and I'll tell you why. Leah and Gabe are in the same creative writing class. They get the same pop culture references, order the same Chinese food, and hang out in the same places. Unfortunately, Leah is a little aloof, Gabe is shy, and it looks like they are never going to work things out. But something is happening between them, and everyone can see it. Their creative writing teacher pushes them together. The baristas at the local Starbucks watch their relationship like a TV series. The bus driver tells his wife about them. The waitress at the diner automatically seats them together. Even the squirrel who lives on the college green believes Leah and Gabe were meant to be together. Fall in love with falling in love in this irresistibly romantic, completely original novel. So what is different about this is if you look really tiny closely on the cover, it says 14 viewpoints, 1 love story. That is correct. This book goes through one story, but it's from different people. So I'll give you an example without trying to spoil anything. So there starts, and it goes by months too. So there's October, I meant instead of chapters, there's months. And then there's Charlotte the barista. And then on the next page you have Victor. And it literally is Leah and Gabe's story, but through different viewpoints. Now, normally I don't like a story that has like switches characters too much because it's hard to keep track of everything, but this one was really creative in how it did it. It, like, for one thing, you know, they labeled when all of the different characters were talking about it, and sometimes it got a little difficult. I was like, now wait a minute, which character is this again? Which one is this one? But it was really interesting how the author, you know, told one story but through different points of view and not from the point of view of the two people who the story is about. I thought that that was like not really mind-blowing, but I thought that that was really creative. Now, is this the best book that I've ever read? No. It's not the worst book I've ever read either, but again, it's one of those predictable love stories. And the only reason why I read it is because, one, it takes place in college. I love any type of book that takes place in a college setting. And 2, the 14 viewpoints, that just sparked my interest. So I had to see what it was about. And it's a good book. Like, I definitely would recommend reading it if, you know, multiple viewpoints is something that interests you. But it follows the same thing. I can't remember what book I talked about, but it kind of follows the same thing as Pride and Prejudice. They like each other, and then they don't like each other because of a misunderstanding, and the whole time you're screaming at them, will you just wake up and talk to each other? But they don't, and that's not telling anything about the book. Like, you find that out pretty straight away. But overall, it was a cute little story. Again, I think the biggest selling point is that 14 viewpoints thing. Honestly, if it didn't have that, I don't think that this book would be much to write home about. But yeah, it was a good read. I enjoyed reading it, so that's something. Something that I found funny, one of the viewpoints is a bench on campus. So there's that for you. But yeah, I gave this a 3 out of 5. All right, guys, so another book that I read this month was The Kills by Linda Fairstein. And if you don't know who Linda Fairstein is, these books are actually the books that inspired the Law & Order SVU show, because the main character of this book is Alexandra Cooper, who was the first DA in the series. But let me tell you what this particular book was about. Talk about if I liked it or not. Prosecuting Andrew Tripping for the assault of Paige Vallis is already hard enough for Assistant District Attorney Alexandra Cooper. No evidence, no forensics. It is the classic he said, she said scenario that is so difficult to prove. Which is why Alex is pinning her hopes on Kevin Bessemer, Tripping's cellmate at Rikers, and Dulles, Tripping's 10-year-old son, who was in the house on the night in question. But on the way from Rikers to meet Alex, Bessemer uses the situation to make good his escape. And interviewing Dulles is proving equally difficult. First, the social workers won't let her see him. Then, when the judge does grant Alex permission, Dulles disappears. As the trial begins, a murder overtakes events inside the courtroom, and Alex is plunged into a race against time to discover the truth. A terrifying journey that ends up in the Kills, the eerie waterways along the coastline of New York's harbor. So, this is the 6th book in the series, I believe. And I seriously think that this is the best book that I have read from the series. The series is good. Some of the books are hit and miss, but this one was especially good. There were a lot of twists and turns in it to make you want to keep reading it. And I mean, it ended on a pretty good resolution, but it wasn't just like one of those stereotypical, you know, happy ending type of books. So if you like, well, I mean, obviously if you like Law & Order SVU, or like lawyer-y types of books, like investigation and stuff, you will definitely enjoy these. I don't know necessarily if, well, you do and you don't. Like, you do have to read the books in order, because there's some things that are mentioned in some books that are talked about or that happened in other books. But if that type of thing doesn't bother you, you don't necessarily have to read them in order. Like, you'll get the overall gist of the story. Like, each of the books is a different story, but there's like little story lines that will make more sense if you read the books in order. But, you know, if that doesn't really bother you, if you just want to read like the crime or the case aspect of it, then I would definitely start with this one. This was, like I said, a really good one. I think this is my favorite out of the series so far that I've read. So that was The Kills by Linda Fairstein. All right, guys, so the last book that I read in May, also kind of going into June, but we're just going to ignore that and pretend it was just in May, was The Mad Girls of New York. And this is actually a novel about Nellie Bly. So if you don't know who Nellie Bly is, well, I'll read the back and then I can kind of add things if I need to. In 1887 New York City, Nellie Bly has ambitions beyond writing for the ladies' pages, but all the editors on Newspaper Row think women are too emotional, respectable, and delicate to do the job. But then the New York World challenges her to an assignment she'd be mad to accept and mad to refuse. go undercover as a patient at Blackwell's Island Insane Asylum for Women. For months, rumors have been swirling about the deplorable conditions at Blackwell's, but no reporter can get in. That is, until Nellie feigns insanity, gets committed, and attempts to survive 10 days in the asylum. Inside, she discovers horrors beyond comprehension. It's an investigation that could make her career, if she can get out to tell her story before 2 rival reporters scoop it. So, I got really excited when I found out that this was a novel, because if you know me, I love history, I love historical novels, especially if they're based on true people, events, etc. And I loved this book. It was so good. It was a captivating read. It just missed the mark just a little bit for me not to give it 5 stars, but it was like right under there. I'd probably give it like a 4.9. But it was so good. It told her story really well. You could tell that the author did her research on this, and she did add a couple of characters or fictionalize some, but she based them on either true people or true things that happened, which she talks about that in the author's note in the book. But Nellie Bly is the person who really, well, I get one of the main people to bring a catalyst to investigative reporting. Like from this, she went undercover and a lot of stuff. They called, what did they call it? They had like a specific stunt reporting. That's what they called it. But this was really good, especially if you like historical novels. It was really, really sad to read about how the women were treated in the insane asylum. And just for spoiler alert, I did go ahead and pick up the real book. This is 10 Days in a Madhouse. This is the actual story that she wrote. So this book is based on her experience in this, and I'm definitely going to be reading this soon. Like, I'm excited to read it. So I will talk about that. I'm hoping to read this month, so you'll stay tuned for that. But if you want to get an idea of what this is about, but you don't really like nonfiction, I think this would be a great avenue, with realizing that some of this may be dramatized. Is that how you say that? I can't really say that well. But some of this is fictionalized, but the author solely wrote her experience in this book based on the real one. So for that, I give this an A+. So without further ado, that wraps up the books that I read in May. I about said June, because it is June when I'm filming this. Whoops. But I read some really good books this month. I'm super excited for what is coming for June. I will definitely be reading the Nellie Bly book, especially since it seems really short, so I could get through it like in no time at all. But thank you if you have stuck around this far, and if you want to see what books I read in June, as well as what other videos I have, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I post a whole different kind of content on here because I like to cater to a wide variety of people, because that's what my personality is, honestly. So, you know, I have varied interests, from shopping to luxury items to tattoos to books to history. Like, I kind of cover it all on here. But also, if you want to see more of me, definitely check me out on Instagram. I'm on there way more often than I am on here. And with all of that businessy stuff out of the way, I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.
All that's left is a window to my soul. Come and get it.